What's up? Today I've got a recent read, this tankobon here, that I wanted to go through that is titled Under the Loquat Tree by Yuzuki Kazu, a mangaka who had contributed in Garo, but also in Comic Baku, in Gekika Panic. And this tankobon collects 8 stories that all have a common theme of vegetation and gardens into this one book here. And all of the stories were published in between 1982 to 1995. And the backstory of this was just that Kazu was asked by his editor to collect some of these stories with this overall common theme. And so he did, and also added a couple of extra stories into it as well. So this tankobon was published in 2001. Here are the details. It also features an afterword as well. So we'll just get right into it. The first story is the titular story, Under the Loquat Tree, and this one's probably the most interesting one out of the entire tankobon itself, because we follow Koichi, who's this little boy who is currently sick at the moment. And also, one thing I love about Kazu is his art style, very detailed. And Koichi, he's just resting at home at the moment, and his sister Shoko and her friend Hinako, they come over to play pretty much. But he's just there watching them. They decide to climb the loquat tree for fun, while the dog is just watching, of course. And one thing I would like to say about like the tankobon as well is that in the stories that we see, a lot of the pages just have nothing happening, and it's more just a visual experience of surveying the natural landscape. A lot of it is set in gardens or any other natural environments like the beach. But what happens is that Koichi, he has this weird dream where his dog Mars shows up under his quilt, all weird looking. But he wakes up and decides to go out to find Hinako, his sister's friend, climbing the tree, and he's observing all these insects. Quite a strange uh, setting or strange environment at the moment. But when he goes back to his bed, he finds Hinako sleeping next to him. And so the story ends with his own self looking back at him. So, is it a dream? Is it real? Who knows? But it's a great first story to start off the tankobon, because I would say, in my opinion, this I don't know if I would say that Kazuki's stories are my favorites. I do feel that a lot of them are a bit slow or there's nothing happening. I do love the art, but it's just that the stories aren't my thing. But I still wanted to show this off because, you know, it's just introducing people to something they might like. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean that other people won't like it either. But yeah, second story we have is called The Little Sister in August. And it's also a sort of similar story, minus the dreamlike setting. We've got a girl named Mizuho who is just chilling at home. She's over here, chilling at home with her grandma. Her grandma keeps complaining that she does nothing really at home, so she decides to go out and go for a swim at the beach. So she goes to find her friend Mizuho, and here they are, both at the beach, stretching, chilling. They spot some boys over here, just chilling on the rocks. So it's all the stories they do. They try to uh, create this feeling of nostalgia, of childhood, especially in relation to Yuzuki Kazu's own childhood. Um, Looking at a lot of scenes and a lot of events that you would experience as a kid, going to the beach, being with family, that sort of thing. So although it's not, I would describe it as being a very universal experience or universal type of setting that Yuzuki is trying to put out. Um, and a lot of the dialogue as well is pretty mundane too. I think that was the reason why I didn't really connect with any of them too much, because that dialogue was mundane, but I do feel it still serves the purpose of trying to create something nostalgic, somewhat of a nostalgic feeling for the reader. But yeah, so that was the second story, just swimming pretty much. Third story is called The Girls at the Sea. And as the name suggests, it's two friends over here that they eventually go to the sea, but what they do first is they travel into town and they go to see a movie at the cinema. Also got this very strange scene of this man over here, dancing with a watermelon on his head. Very interesting. But yeah, they go to the cinema. They meet some boys there. One of the boys is quite annoying as well. I love this panel here. So someone dancing, the cinema. But yeah, my favorite thing about this tankobon is all of the scenery that is drawn. Super detailed, nostalgic as well. And this is them just ending up swimming after the movie. Okay, so the next two chapters I can't really show on YouTube because it's a bit explicit and it's kind of hard to explain anyways. I don't really know how to explain that story. It's a bit weird. But our next story, I believe this is the fifth story, is called Mayuko and the Natural Sciences Classroom. So again, very detailed artwork. So, as the name suggests, we follow Mayuko, a girl in a science class at the moment who gets in trouble for spilling like some of the plants or the water in the classroom. And so she gets in trouble, she gets told off, and her punishment is that she has to stay back to clean the classroom after class. And this is her cleaning. Again, I'll zoom in for the amazing art. But she does get a bit annoyed while cleaning, goes around exploring the classroom, and some of the students, these twins, pop up and they sort of distract her for some reason. There they are, annoying her. And then another student, after the twins come in, a boy over here. And he also does the same thing, but he's a lot more violent. And he just wreaks havoc on the classroom. But what happens is, when they start to fight a little more, one of the models breaks and he just goes and runs away. So now we're left with the girl sort of thinking what to do. How can I fix this thing? But the teacher comes back a bit too quickly, so she had to just stuff it behind her in the curtain. And the teacher's actually happy now. She's just saying, I respect all the hard work you're putting into this cleaning and stuff. You've learned your lesson, blah, blah, blah. Stuff along that line. But when the wind blows, she figures out that she hasn't really been doing what she asked and actually did something worse, which was breaking the model. And we end off with a really cool shot of all these owls and the girl running away from her teacher. So And we also got this picture for some reason, this photograph of some plants. Again, another mundane story, just daily life at school back when the people were kids, somewhat relatable to readers. Okay, so continuing on, what's the story? This is the Cassowaries Garden. I believe are Cassowaries Australian? I think they are. No, I don't know. I'll have to check. But this one's kind of a weird one too, and in the same vein, also a bit mundane, normal. Uh, Nothing out of the ordinary. It's a cassowary that appears in the garden someday for some reason. The girl takes a notice, but she's doing her own thing, and her friend comes over, and they chill, talk about a couple of things. The friend goes to try and find the cassowary and try to shoo it away, but does not work. And so they're back together, just talking about various things. But yeah, you'll notice that a lot of this manga is everyday conversations between friends, between family, and pretty much, yeah, I would like to say mundane is the best way, the best word I have right now that describes this manga, this book. But of course, detailed artwork. And the end of the story is just the girl being asked to get some fruit on the uh, get some fruit for the family later, and so she's just laying there lazy while the cassowary looks on. So I don't really understand the purpose of these stories either. So I can't really comment on the message or the intentions behind the stories. So make of it what you will. Okay, we're approaching the end of the tankobon. We've got a story here titled Mizuho and Rinko. Two friends, pictured here, who meet up one day in the same. All of this seems to be like they're not connected. The stories aren't connected, but they all seem to be set in the same type of garden or village or town. Um, of course, rural. You don't really see any uh, big buildings or anything. Very natural landscapes. And so we have the two friends, Mizuho and Rinko. They meet up and they have a little afternoon nap. And here's this is a chicken? Yeah, it's not the cassowary, that's a chicken. But for some reason they start fighting out of nowhere. There it is, fighting. The scene of the chicken and the cat for some reason. This is a very interesting panel. Sunflower is looking on in the background while they are fighting. And it does get pretty violent, choking out, pulling hair, and they cut it off at this point, and one of them just runs away after. So, very confusing scene of events here. Not sure why this fighting happened, but everything's okay. It's not. It didn't seem like they they were actually out for blood. Maybe it's just like a kid thing. I don't know. No idea. All right, and the last story we have is by far the weirdest one. It's called The Garden in Summer. Uh, and we follow this girl called Fusa. Fusa is just also the character design's a little bit more cartoony compared to the other stories. But Fusa is just in her garden, looking at all of the squashes in the garden, and she doesn't want to have squashes for dinner anymore. Complains to grandma. So when they're both sleeping, she wakes up and is attacked by these vines from the garden. So she's taken up, kidnapped. The grandma wakes up, but she can't find the granddaughter anywhere. And we've got a really cool shot here of praying mantis. But the reason why the grandma can't find her is because, well, she's turned into a squash for some reason, and she's stuck like this. All she can do is, watch on as this praying mantis and the snake climb on her. It's not a great experience for her. But her friend comes down, and she is wondering where her friend is, but of course, she's stuck as a squash. So she can't really do anything. The dog is here as well. But the dog gets a wind of the girl as a squash because you can see it barking over here at her. So it somehow knows. And there it is. And when she falls from the tree, it explodes and she's back to normal. The dog is comically posing as in a human pose, runs away, gets super scared, and the girl starts crying because, I mean, I get it. I would too if I was turned into a squash and exploded back into human form. But everything's normal after. The two friends go out, but the dog is still pretty traumatized. Where is it? Yeah, the dog is still pretty traumatized at that event. But the two girls, they're fine. So they just go and swim like normal. And yeah, that is the end of Under the Loquat Tree by Yuzuki Kazu, 2001, published in 2001. And here are where the specific stories were serialized: Comic Baku, Gekika Panic, and Garo. So this time one was an interesting one. Again, it's not my favorite mangaka or set of stories I've read in the past couple months, but again, the favorite thing about this manga was all of the scenery, all of the natural environment, the landscapes and how they were drawn. Super, super detailed. But in terms of the stories, it was a bit hard to figure out what the intentions were, the purpose, the meaning. Bit tough, but I'm not too fussed about it. It's still a great book to have, just because of how the art is. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. In terms of Kazu's other works, I do believe they have one more tankobon out. I could be wrong, but I'll put it in the description as well. And also another thing, I am quite active on Insta. So if you ever want to contact me or ask me a question or anything, feel free to do so, because Insta was where I started, and then I moved to YouTube. Well, I'm doing both at the same time. But yeah, feel free to contact me there if you got any questions. But yeah, see you guys in the next video. Bye.